This is a warning to the people of the world. In this podcast, you will find themes of an adult nature, including but not limited to alcohol, pussy, tobacco, pussy, drugs, firearms, cursing, and pussy, and other such adult themed references. So if this disturbs or offends you, get the fuck out of here.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do? Yeah, bad boys, what you gonna do?
And that's when I broke into a house.
Wow, dude, I actually was hoping for the last end of that song so that we didn't have to get into the fact of all of your burglaries.
I know, I cut it a little bit short. Allie, what do you think?
Oh, shit. Right. Oh, all right. I am TR.
I am JJ.
Welcome back to Dual Thought. With us today is Allie. Allie is a 15-year retired police officer.
Hi, guys.
What'd you think of that opening?
I love it. I love that voice.
The
Gotta
bad
love
boy,
that
bad
jam every
voice.
time it plays.
Did you ever
Love
play
it.
the drinking game or the betting game of when cops came on and you were just like, oh, it's going to be a white guy and it's a burglary, and if I win, everybody else has to drink?
Oh, the cops show?
Yeah.
No. We never played that.
Oh,
but that's
shit.
a good one.
We need to.
It's a fun drinking game because if everybody loses, everybody drinks.
Everybody drinks.
You
Well, as
gotta
a,
start on a guess before the show before they like pull over the guy.
Right?
But when they're talking to the sergeant or whatever, you just gotta be like, all right, it's gonna be a black male on theft, or
Right.
it's gonna be a
White guy with a wife beater
white
on.
male.
Yep.
On drug
Did you ever play
charges.
that one? Did you ever guesstimate? Like, as you pulled somebody over, like, I think he's going to be...
All the time. In
Oh,
fact,
hell
we would hold our hands behind our back and we would say, he's a 1-5 or he's a 1-7. We'd bet all the time for coffee. So.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Right.
so you did play.
Of
Yeah,
course, come on.
So y'all you do have your games.
Absolutely.
Like, this motherfucker is trash.
All right,
Right?
so just to give some reference, Allie is a 15-plus veteran on the police force.
Yes.
It is more than welcoming to have a police officer in the studio.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm looking at criminal charges.
Guys,
so.
stop it.
Yeah, no, you don't want to say that near a police officer.
Right.
Retired.
Retired police officer. You still got your badge, though.
I do. I'm
So-
a private investigator. I'm an officer of the court. I serve legal documents, and I'm a flight officer and do all that kind of stuff. But
And,
So, yeah, I
and
mean-
you do stuff with kids, from what I understand.
I do. I do transport juveniles right now. So I work with juveniles from 10 to 17. I transport them all over the United States.
What's that like?
It's actually kind of a cool gig. I work one 24-hour shift about every 5 to 7 days. I kind of take the jobs that I want. I mostly fly to East Coast. I usually fly into LaGuardia, Kennedy. I go a lot to Chicago, and then come back to Denver. So it's a really kind of an easy gig. I just transport them back and forth.
If you can tell us, what do you have to do?
I basically go and if you guys have ever seen shows with kiddos that are in trouble and they basically look like they're getting kidnapped from their house, their parents hire us or the court does to go and take them to mostly rehab.
Kind of like a bond hunter kind of thing.
Somewhat. So, their parents sign a declaration of custody. We have legal custody of them. And then we basically take them, whether they're willing to come or not. And then I always have a cover officer. So, like, for instance, my last flight that I went to, I actually flew into LaGuardia and got a gentleman there and flew him back to Denver. He went to a rehab facility in Denver. So we just we snag him out of his home, go back to the airport, and then I'm in flight. And, of course, there's not a direct flight from New York to Durango. So we always have to land in Dallas and Dallas to Durango. So basically I work a 24 to 27 hour shift with the juvenile that I'm with.
So basically you're like Dog the Bounty Hunter, but with legal permission.
Pretty much.
So
Pretty
yeah,
much.
I mean, you're going after not only juveniles, but also don't you have other is it adults you go after as well, or no?
Not necessarily. Right now I'm only transporting just juveniles. So, I mean, like the marshals and stuff actually will take care of our adult offenders, but I just do juveniles at this time. And then when I'm a private investigator, that's a whole different story. I investigate every gamut of the spectrum. So anywhere from, women wanting to check on where their husbands are, or actually, investigating possible homicide cases. I mean, I investigate everything.
So are you looking to be a PI on, like, just your own terms or on court terms, or?
Yeah, so I have my own private business, and so I just basically freelance. So people hire me for all different things. So I'm a subcontractor is what you basically call it. So people will go say, hey, listen, I need somebody to investigate this case, or I need to do surveillance on this case. And I'm like, I can do that for $150 for this many hours. And then I get certain contracts, and then I just fulfill those. So it's really cool. I take the jobs that I want.
Is it true? Is it true that most PIs get adultery cases?
A lot of them are. The
cheating
but
and
it is. But actually, mostly I work a lot of insurance fraud. It's a lot of boring stuff that I work.
Insurance fraud is important, though.
It is, and they pay big. So one of my biggest payers right now is Allstate. I work for them, and they basically pay me and say, hey, listen, hypothetically, Joe Blow is saying that his back is out, but we now have a pay stub from him working at whatever place.
Such and such.
So basically you're looking for him to get up out of his chair and
exactly
run around, do his normal business.
Exactly.
And be like, hey, dude, obviously these are things that you can do without a back problem.
Exactly. A lot of it is going to be Medicare fraud, medical benefit fraud, all your insurance stuff. So a lot of it is, a little bit boring. It's not as exciting as you think, but some of it is, and it really just depends. Like I said, I just have a huge gamut of people that I investigate.
Is it a lot of photological evidence?
A lot of it is. And then a lot of it's paper trail. Some of the people don't realize when you fill out a W-2.
Or your credit cards.
That's going to be traced. Okay? So as soon as you go to your employer and you're going to fill out your information and all your tax stuff, that goes straight into the state and it's going to be traced. So that's the first avenue that I go down. And then, obviously, photographing them and surveillance and that sort of thing.
Just personally, how many adultery cases to fraud cases have you worked?
I would probably say only maybe 25% is going to be on that adultery case. Those are going to be more kind of come as they go, and they're not really that much. I shoot hourly. I want to make the most coin that I can, and there's more coin.
It's what we all want to do, right?
In insurance fraud and that sort of stuff. But there's some pretty interesting cases that I just will literally take just to take them because, they're interesting. I'll definitely take them. I've had some pretty high-profile cases that I won't specifically say.
You can't even name them anonymously?
Let's not do that.
No,
you can't be like, this anonymous male came in to the to look for this anonymous female and...
No. We're not getting into detail here. All right, one of our stipulations on having our guests here is we're not getting into details.
We don't want to reveal who our guests are. That's
exactly
why we give names.
Exactly.
Anyhow, Allie, when we think about basically when you were with the law enforcement agency. Normal Larimer County or such and that. Which one were you with?
I'm just going to say that it was with a state agency in Colorado.
All right. So when you were with them, what was your main objectives? Were you Did you, I just want to know, I think most of our listeners want to know, when it comes to the regular cops and everything like this, do you guys have to fill a quota?
Not necessarily. I mean, I was primarily a street officer patrol, and then I got promoted pretty quickly. I was a detective, and then primarily in my last few years, I was a DUI officer. So basically, your supervisor is not going to tell you that, listen, you have to get, so many tickets, that sort of thing. But you have to be productive. I mean, you have a 10-hour shift. You have cops that are going to go out there that are literally just going to drive around and act like the police. And then you actually have cops that want to be the police. So it's what you make it of your shift.
Real quick, in your opinion, what is the difference between acting like the police and being the police?
I mean, some people just like to have the uniform on, gun, badge, that sort of stuff.
Basically hide behind the badge.
And then you have people that actually want to be the police. You know what I'm saying? So
do you see a difference in stops?
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, I'm going to give you a straight for instance, okay? So you'll have Officer A that'll call in service, get in his car, and go get coffee, and go sit and park. And then he'll wait 2 hours, go get lunch, and he'll sit and park. He might get a call for service here and there and do nothing his entire shift. Then you'll have Officer B that's straight out of the gate is calling a traffic stop as soon as they pull out of the police department lot. And they're going to get into anything and everything that they can. So, I mean, you'll have officers you'll have 3 or 4 arrests a night. They'll write, X many citations. It's all about what you want to do.
Do you find it a difference in level, like starting off officer or sergeant?
You're pretty much going to show who you are in that first year of service. So you're going to have a lazy cop versus a lazy corporal versus a lazy sergeant as a productive sergeant and a productive corporal and a productive officer. So you kind of see the true people that are out there. So, I mean, I've literally have had officers that, literally will spend their entire shift doing nothing at all. And then you'll have officers that will get into the shit every second that they can. They're out there doing whatever they can, whether it's not even literally writing tickets or, stopping people, whatever it may be. They're the police. They want to be the police.
All right, but, Allie, I've got to ask, because I've heard this rumor. I've heard a rumor that when you start off as a cop, it's getting as much as you can. When you become a lieutenant, it's... Alright, I understand where you're coming from, or I don't understand where you're coming from. Either I'll let you go or I'll keep you. Sergeant being... You know what? I don't need to do this, but would you be willing to do this? And I've also heard of people just, you know what? I understand where
JJ,
you're
you're talking
from,
about the fact that there's
I'm
a variation. Are you talking about there's a variation in justice between the ranks?
Yes.
Yeah, so, like I said again, it's all about the person that you are, whether you're an officer or you're a chief. Okay, so we used to have a saying what's called ROD, retired on duty, where people would just sit there and not do anything. I've literally had supervisors, like lieutenants and above, that'll literally be right behind you in the shit. And then you literally will have lieutenants and sergeants that are sitting at their desks saying, oh, shit, man, I didn't hear that call go out, or, oh, I didn't realize you were in that. So, it's a huge difference. So you will literally see cops that'll be out there getting into the shit full force and no hesitation. And you're going to have cops that will not do that. So one of my very first FOT officers who was training me, and I never will forget him. His name is Officer Lopez. He used to tell me, hesitation is the mother of all fuck-ups. So if you hesitate on one single thing, whether it's going after a car, whether you see a guy, you're like, oh shit, does he have a gun in his back? What does he have? And if you hesitate on it, it's the mother of all fuck-ups. You're either in or you're not. So, I mean, you have to decide what you're going to do. And you're going to have cops that are just there that are like, and you'll see those. But I honestly would say 75% of the cops are there to be the police. And 25% of them just want to look like the police.
So
I agree with that.
What about those cops that will pull you over for nothing? What about those cops that will pull you over just to be like, yeah, your taillight's out, let me find something else?
So we call
And they can't find anything else.
So we call that fishing, okay? So a lot of times officers, like specifically on a Friday, Saturday night from like 11 to 4 in the morning, they're going to fish.
You're looking for the drunk bastard.
They're going to want to find something, okay?
And I can understand that. I mean, we want drunk drivers off the street.
Right. So all an officer has to have, at the minimum, is reasonable suspicion, okay? So if he has a lawful reason to be there, whether it is a tail light, a turn signal, fail to stop at a stop sign, as long as he lawfully has you there, Justin, it doesn't matter what he may find or may not find.
JJ.
So, you see what I'm saying? So, as long as he's lawfully there, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, let's say hypothetically you had something in your car, your truck. As long as he's lawfully stopped you, it doesn't matter. As long as he's lawfully there.
But what if nothing was wrong except for a broken taillight?
It doesn't matter. It's an equipment violation. He's lawfully there.
And if you're looking for DUI
doesn't
or anything,
matter.
I mean, if the guy only has a broken taillight, and so you can give him a ticket for a broken taillight, but
a defective vehicle, I guess, is the proper term for that one.
Right, but I think the big picture is this. So, hypothetically, when I was a DUI officer, you want to find a moving violation. So, if I'm behind a guy and he's, let's say he, ran a red light, and now I'm behind him, he's caught my eye, I'm like, all right, this guy's interesting to me. So, I'm driving behind him, and now he's weaving. Okay, he's bouncing from line to line to line, and now he makes a turn and he doesn't signal. So now I got three things. Okay, he ran the red light, he's weaving, failed to turn signal. I'm golden. I light him up, I call traffic, I contact him, I smell an odor of an alcoholic beverage. I'm lawfully there. Okay, so I think when a lot of officers, especially when they're rookies, and I was a training officer for several years, if you are going to find something like a DUI, you're going to see it. Don't just say, "Oh, he's got a broken taillight." Find something else, because if he's truly intoxicated, you're going to see it. And you want to have good probable cause. You don't want to have anything weak.
Do you find something else before you pull him over, or just go, "Oh, he's got a broken taillight, let me see if he's
No,
DUI.
hell no. I want to get as much as I can, because I want a good lawful stop. Like I said, if there's something sketchy with the driver, you're going to see it. You're going to see it. And I just don't want an equipment violation. You know what I'm saying? And this is how I think. Of course, as officers, we have gone out and had drinks. God knows we've done stuff we shouldn't have done. And if I have a broken taillight, I wouldn't want an officer to stop me just because I have a tail light that's out or a headlight that's out. It's just an equipment violation. Let him see something that I'm actually lawfully doing wrong. So for me, my cases just looked a lot stronger if I had a lot more behind my case than just an equipment violation.
So we're saying...
God knows, I've done a lot more.
So we're saying, number one, that obviously officers are not perfect.
Of course.
Obviously. So I guess my question is, what do you feel about the new social media that's coming up with officers that are pretty much shooting before questioning, and I mean the things that are being put up on Facebook and stuff like this that are showing more and more of officer
Showing
attacks
up on scene and
more
not
than
doing anything.
Well, I think so much of that, is a 50-50 split, because there's a lot of those things that I've seen on Facebook where you don't get to see the entire stop. And I think that they only show you the clips from where the officer's actually striking the suspect, but you don't see what's led up to that. And which I think is unfair. I think you have to see the totality of the circumstances from the very, very beginning of what the officer was dispatched to, what he's hearing en route, what he sees when he arrives on scene, what he's having to deal with, and maybe he's dealt with that subject 5 or 6 times. He's been at that location several times. So he has a huge history. And then on Facebook or social media, they just show the 40 seconds of when the officer's in the shit with the jackass.
Totality of circumstances is a good point right here.
And I'd actually agree. Give me a second. I'd actually agree with that. If I see some of these, though, it's not just 40 seconds of the last response. There was actually quite a few of them that I've seen that, let's say, even, for example, I seen the one video that came across where they were trying to contain a dog that they already had. It was chained up, locked up. I mean, they had everything on him, and the dog was, of course, struggling, because the dog, of course, will struggle like any dog will against being captive and stuff like this. And they shot this dog. The police officers shot this dog
In restraints.
in restraints, because of the fact that it, of course, is trying to get away from the leashes and everything else they were putting on.
And one of the things the cop said is trying to escape. Is trying to escape.
I mean, how is this protecting and serving the community?
So early on in my law enforcement career, I started in a community where pit bulls were prevalent. And we had several pit bull attacks. So much the fact that, a dog is quick. Extremely quick. To where officers, we would literally dart them. Which would
have been a better option.
Try to tase them. But at one point, my sergeant who I worked under specifically told me, you have every right to shoot that dog if he's coming at you, or if you're protecting someone else as far as small children. I'll give you a specific example. I was in a trailer park where there was a huge fight that broke out on the 4th of July. And there was probably 40, 50 people involved. Well, of course, everybody brings out their pit bulls. We have small children everywhere. So now we have pit bulls fighting. We have adult males fighting. We have children running all over the place. My number one job is protect the citizens of the city that I worked in. So for me, honestly, I'm going to protect a 2-year-old child over a dog. I'm sorry, but that's where it's at for me. So my orders at that time were to protect the kids. We didn't have to shoot any of the dogs at the time. We did have to dart a couple of them. We did get a couple of them surrounded. But I think this is the thing. There again, I don't know the totality of the circumstances that happened in that case, so I can't speak for what happened, okay? I don't know if maybe that dog had maybe already bit somebody, had already, injured somebody. I don't know. But you know what? At the end of the day, I don't want to go home and say, God, I shot somebody's dog. Come on. We don't get paid big bucks to go shoot somebody's dog. So honestly, I don't think that that's the officer's agenda. I mean, they're looking at the totality of the circumstances.
I mean, that's just the case that I'm bringing up here is the fact that freaking there was just no actual cause to shoot the dog due to the fact that they had leashes, chains, and everything else over it. It was not attacking. It was trying to escape from the captivity that they were trying to put him in, like anything would. I mean, my dog's alone. If you put a rope around them, they're going to try to run away from it.
Of course. I mean,
you see the thing struggling against the rope, and the officer didn't feel harm against the dog because the dog wasn't trying to attack them. It was trying to pull against the rope, and they shot him.
right. I mean, like I said, I wasn't there. I mean, obviously, that's probably was a little excessive. I mean,
it was excessive.
I can't speak on the circumstance. I didn't see it. I'm not really sure what specific incident you're referencing, but I mean,
that's just one. That's just one reference that I'm going with. And I mean, I'm going with more than just one.
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of things that I see on social media that make me cringe. That I see officers do, and I think the worst thing is when you watch like cops. I mean, you watch cops and you sit there and you're like, oh my god, and you actually watch what officers do or what they don't do. And it's almost embarrassing sometimes, and it's almost funny at times, but you can always Monday morning quarterback everybody at every time, but it's just one of those things.
Really quick, I know this is all about social media, so I want to, because this was either posted on Facebook or it was posted on YouTube. But I wanna ask you, how do you feel about social media and police officers? How do you think it portrays them, and how do you think the community perceives? Thank you. Perceives this.
I think it's one of those things where everybody can, like I just said, that you can Monday morning quarterback every person in every position. And I think when people go and they say, you know what, I want to do a career in law enforcement, and they put themselves through the police academy, which is not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of money to get certified, to be able to become a police officer. You have to go through so much training, so many hours of shooting, PPCT, all this sort of stuff. And then once you get hired on at the department, there again, you got to prove yourself to everybody on that department. And, it's a hard situation. So I think that officers aren't out there just to be disgruntled or to make bad calls and that sort of stuff. And what people don't realize is that they put themselves on the line every single day. And we're dealing with the worst of the worst people. I mean, like I always say, everybody loves a firefighter and everybody hates a cop until you need one. And we're put in situations every single day that it's a hard decision. And sometimes we make the right decision, and sometimes we don't.
And I mean, I'm going to say right now, I don't hate cops until you need it. I mean, I personally, just today, I got stopped by one of the Larimer County Police Department, just checking in, saying what's up. And he wasn't really stopping me for anything that was anything. He wasn't going like, hey, I've got something against you or anything like that. He's just checking in, he stops me and goes, hey, so how's your day going? And I mean, we need more officers like that really would rather, stop you and go, hey, how you doing? Rather than, oh, hey, you fit a description of something. I mean, that's something that's a little bit more, I think, safe to anyone. If you got an officer pulling you over, not just pulling you over, but just stopping and going, hey, how's your day going? I mean, that is what we expect out of our officers, is somebody that's going to stop and be like, hey, you look a little pissed off. What's going on, dude? You know, and I mean, rather than those that stop you and go, hey, so I'm going to run you just for, shits and giggles. Let's see if you got something.
Right. I mean, of course. I mean, there's a lot of it is your community policing. That's a huge push of going out there in the public, contacting people, seeing if everybody's okay. And I think what people don't understand is that every single thing that you do when you're on duty, and we call it pulling the trigger on something, is paperwork. So if you really think that I'm going to go and contact some guy because I just want to harass him, every single thing that you do is paperwork. It's documentation. I got to pull a case number. I got to write a report. Now, this report has to be turned in my sergeant and it has to be approved. And then records has to approve it. Now I'm going to stay 3 hours after my shift to have to write this report. So it's not like officers just go out and specifically say, hey, I'm going to go and pick on this guy, or I want to find this, or I want to find that. Sometimes you're backlogged days after days after days on reports that you have to do. There again, how I opened up the show is that you will literally have your typical lazy cop who doesn't want to do shit. Because he doesn't want to have to do reports. Then you have cops that'll get into this shit constantly. So for us, I'm sworn in to protect the citizens, the property, everybody who's in my community. So whether that means me taking a burglary report, me having to tow a car, me taking, having to help this citizen who their cars broke down, whatever it may be that day, you got me for 10 hours. I'm going to fulfill that however I need to. So, everything, there's always a reason for something, whatever it may be, okay? So I think the big picture is that so many people do not understand what it really, really takes and what it means to be the police. So many people judge officers of who they are and how they act and what that may be, okay? So I'll give you, for instance, several years ago, you guys are going to remember, we had the Texas 7 that came through. They specifically came through a town that I was patrolling that night, okay? And like I said, I was primarily a DUI officer. I'm stopping every vehicle that I can see that I have probable cause on. I thank God every day.
And probable cause
didn't
being
stop that
3
van.
things.
Not necessarily. If that van would have caught my attention that they were in, if they fled in and came through the town that I was patrolling, you know what I'm saying? I think of that sort of thing. I would have laid my life down for anything at any time and not realizing it. And so, it's not like I'm just working at Walmart or I'm not working on Wall Street and I'm not knocking down any of those two things. But anytime I get in my patrol car and I call in on duty in service, you never know what's going to happen. I have frisked a guy who was positive for HIV. He had hypodermic needles on him, and I actually got stuck with one of those needles. And
Holy
I was
shit, really?
terrified to death. And literally, I was pregnant at the time and didn't even realize it with my first son. Thank God I was obviously negative. I got tested twice. I waited for the test. But you never know. I put that badge on every day in that frickin' shitty uniform to go out and protect citizens every day. For what? And I'm going to get fucking HIV? That's a shitty way to go, dude. You know what I'm saying? So, people don't realize that.
All right. Real quick, I wanted to ask you, what is the difference between what we see on television, like on cops, on the news, to compare it to everyday stuff?
Most of the time, police work is pretty humdrum, okay? Typically, you're going to call into service, and they all go by rotational calls, okay? First officer gets a theft call. Second officer may get a shoplifting call. Third officer may get a bike theft call. You just never know what you're going to get. It's a bag full of tricks, okay? I think that was the most funnest part of that job, is I never knew what I was going to get, okay? So, I mean, you have your highs and your lows. And I think that's what it is. A lot of us are just total adrenaline junkies. We loved it. I had probably the most pursuits on my department than any other officer. Primarily because I pulled the most traffic stops. I mean, I had pursuits. I probably had at least 25 plus pursuits in my career. And they're a frickin' blast. The best part of my job.
What do you mean by pursuit?
So we basically have a traffic pursuit. So if I call out traffic and the car doesn't want to stop, within literally 3 seconds, I have to decide, do I want to pursue this guy or not? What do I have? Is it a basic traffic stop? Is he a fleeing felon? Did he just leave a robbery? And then your supervisor is going to make the ultimate determination whether he's going to call you off or not. I have had pursuits on burglary suspects, robbery suspects, murder suspects, all sorts of things. So some of them end bad. People will literally run for the dumbest things. I've had guys that'll run literally for a suspended license. I'll have guys that'll run for $100,000 warrant. So,
Ooh, yeah.
So it's just kind of the gamut from that. My pursuits have turned out good. I've had pursuits that have turned out fatal.
Personally, for me, I think pretty much every time I know I'm screwed. So I think I'm pretty much like, I'll pull the fuck over and be like, all right, you know what? Let's just get this over with.
I'm not gonna go to jail.
Right? It's pretty much, I don't know, there's been many times that I've been pulled over, while drunk for that matter, that actually I've gotten away with more than just a small speeding ticket rather than the DUI. Only because of the fact that I think I've fooled it all off with, get a cigarette lit, disguise the alcohol.
Which it's not.
In the car and everything else. Which, I mean, if it's not, then how did I get away with it all?
I think it's the officer on the stop. Okay? I mean, there's probably a lot of officers where I've literally backed up officers. And I'm like, listen, hey, I was like, this guy's clearly DUI. Whatever reason they want to let him go, whether it's them being lazy or they just don't want to take the hook, whatever it may be. But, I mean, you can clearly see somebody who is, whether it's impaired, whether it's marijuana, whether they're huffing, whether it's alcohol. You can clearly see there's an impairment and something's wrong.
Is there a timestamp for this?
Meaning, timestamp.
We've all watched those commercials that say a beer an hour, a shot an hour, a glass of wine an hour.
Yes.
Is there a timestamp for everything?
Yeah. Typically, it should be one alcoholic drink an hour.
But what about weed? What about Coke?
That's a whole nother gamma. That's a whole nother gauge.
So
Okay.
How do you explain then? How do you explain then 4 beers over 6 hours and still come in with a point of weight?
I have no idea the totality of the circumstances. Basically, if you consume a drink an hour, your body should be able to burn that off.
Yeah.
Having food in your stomach is a huge thing. That's a huge plus. So obviously, if people are going to go out and drink, they should at least have some food in their stomach.
I was going to order Domino's.
Otherwise, yeah. So you definitely need to be able to have some food in your stomach, and then you should be able to consume a drink an hour. However, alcohol affects everyone differently based on their body weight and that sort of thing. I think a rule of thumb is if you have 2 alcoholic drinks or more, you shouldn't drive. Period. Shouldn't do it. I don't care what it is.
So, what about those guys that go to the bar, have 2 shots to watch a football game, and get pulled over?
It all depends on their... I mean, it's going to be on their blood alcohol or their breath alcohol, how much they've consumed, what have they had in their stomach, how quick they drank it, their body weight. I mean, if I did 2 shots of peppermint schnapps and hadn't eaten all day and got in my car and got pulled over within a minute of the bar, I don't know where I'd be, okay? So I think it's one of those things, this is the bottom line. Be responsible, all right? I'm all about having a good time. Go have your drink. Go do what you want to do. If you want to smoke your weed or do whatever you do your thing, dude. But don't get in a freaking car.
Actually, that's something that I wanted to lead into. What about those people that walk to a bar? Any bar, whether it be Fort Collins, Colorado Springs.
Sure.
They smoked before they went. They went to the bar, watched a full, Bronco versus Patriots game.
Yeah.
I already see where you're at.
The game here.
But what about those people that are just like, yeah, I smoke on the regular, I smoke medical, I have a medical license. What about those people that are just like, I smoked before I went to the bar, I went and watched a game, I didn't have any drinks, and walk home? Are you, as law enforcement, would you pull them over?
Well, I'm not going to pull anybody who's over on foot, but if I see somebody who's impaired, who's a danger to themselves or others, or if they're coming out into the roadway, obviously I'm going to have a chat with them and be like, hey, listen, what's up? Are you okay? It looks like you're having a hard time standing. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm not going to jam somebody up just to jam them up. You have to realize that, like I talked about earlier, we got bigger fish to fry, JJ. I'm not just going to be like, hey, you, come here. Listen, it looks like you're on weed. I didn't want to jam you up. No. I can give a shit about you, dude. I don't care what you do. If you're going to smoke weed and be stupid and go to a bar and walk home and fall and break your face, whatever, dude, knock yourself out. You know what I'm saying? I have no charges for that. I don't care about that. Now, if you did something criminal, if you shoved your face through a plate glass window and the burglary alarm went off, then I'm there. Now I've got a lawful reason to be there, and I'm going to be like, what are you doing, dude? Okay.
So what's the difference between a lawful reason and a non-lawful reason?
So if some Joe's just walking home and he's high and he's fucked up, I don't give a shit. Now, if he's impeding traffic, if he's harassing people, if he's loitering, that's where the lawfulness comes in. Is he's doing something he's not supposed to do. If you just want to smoke weed and be stupid and go to the bar and then walk home, I don't care. But if you're doing something that's going to create an attention, if you're a place that you're not supposed to be, then of course, okay? It's all about being smart. Just be smart. If you want to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to do. Mostly just do it in your own privacy at home. Don't put attention to yourself, dude.
Well, I think just the statement of be smart, I think that's a fallacy right there, because we ain't got very many smart people in the world right now.
Exactly.
Actually, I have been, personal story. JJ's personal story. I was, in my house, and I had a, military father and a military stepmother. And they both went, if you're gonna do this, go out somewhere other than the house, because if you're doing this in the house, the cops can come in and bust into our house and find whatever they want. By the way, I was over 18.
Was this actually at the time that it was legal, or was it still illegal?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, it really doesn't, because I've taken classes on this, and I hope that Allie can back me up on this. If you're over 18, living in a house, can cops legally bust in your house because they smell weed and search any room in the house that they want?
So the
Probable cause.
only way that you can get into a house is going to either be consent. So if I'm at the door and the owners of the residence, your mom or dad, and if I say, hey, listen, blah, 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 can I come in and search your house? And if they say sure, boom, that's consent. I'm lawfully there. Or do I have what's called exigent circumstances, which means...
I thought that was probable cause.
No. Exigent circumstances means, so if there's a crime being committed at the time, and I think that I'm going to lose any evidence, like you're flushing coke down the toilet or something imperative, or you're destroying a murder weapon or something like that, that's called exigency. I can bust in your house.
Okay.
Or I have a warrant.
What if you don't
So
have a
probable
warrant?
cause doesn't actually...
No.
Seriously, there's no probable cause.
No. I cannot go into your house based on probable cause. If I see you smoking weed inside your house, I can't kick the door down.
Listen
Now-
to that,
now-
listeners.
However,
If I see you raping a woman,
Obviously.
that's exigency. Okay, I need to hurry and get in based on a crime being committed inside your house at the time.
Or
and
smoking weed
and-
in the
Smoking
house.
weed is
and
not
as
enough
well
for me to kick your door
hearing
down.
Help!
Oh, yeah.
Yes, somebody's screaming for help. That's
Yep.
exigency. So,
it means it's an emergency. I
Yes.
had a reason to
Yes.
kick this door down.
yes.
That is great
So
information.
officers have to be very careful and have to have seconds to decide what they're going to do. Okay. So you get a call of a woman screaming inside of an apartment complex, apartment number 9. You go to the door, you can hear her screaming inside. Officer so-and-so, I'm here. Do you need help? Do you need help? And you hear screaming and screaming. Bam, I can boot that door in a second.
All right,
Because
so,
I can articulate the totality of the circumstances. I got dispatched to a call of a woman screaming. I arrived on scene. I had people yelling and pointing to the door. This woman needs help. If I don't help her,
Well, you're
I'm a
just as
person in
guilty.
position of trust. I have to help her.
Yeah, you're
Okay?
just as
So,
guilty as the criminals themselves.
Now, me kicking in the door because I smell weed ain't gonna fly, baby. I can't do it.
This is where I'm coming from. Let's say, for example, that you're doing a knock and call.
A knock and talk?
What?
A knock and talk, yes.
Okay.
And when the door is opened, you feel that there are drugs in the house.
I feel or I see or I smell.
Smell.
Okay? I'm smelling what? Weed?
Weed,
Pretty much the
cocaine,
only-
Meth? Okay.
I guess the only ones you can really smell is meth and weed.
Okay.
meth, weed, cocaine.
Can't really smell that. 'Cause it's
Okay.
like-
And
You-
what?
You can smell
And
cocaine.
and tell me why I'm called there. I'm like a noise ordinance violation party.
You're there on a noise ordinance.
Okay.
And you knock on the door, and you smell drugs in the house.
Okay.
Is it true? Is it true that you can only investigate where open areas are if there is a person over the age of 18 that is living in a room that has not consented you to looking into their room? Is it true that you can just search the house, or is it just open view?
So I cannot get into that house unless I have consent by
People
a
did
person
say
who
that you can
listen,
come in.
listen. As long as I have consent by a person who's over the age of 18 or older, or who owns the home. So if Miss Little Sally Jones is only 14 years old and she says, "Sure, you can come in and search my house," I can't do it. It's not lawful. Okay? So she's only 14. I have to have somebody who's over the age of 18 who lives and resides in the house, not a babysitter, not some Joe Blow who's down the street. Somebody who actually owns the residence, who rents the residence, who resides in the residence.
So once invited in, of course, by somebody of lawful age, you then have the right, like pretty much like a vampire, once you're invited in, you're able to do whatever.
If I'm invited in and if I say, hey, listen, you know what? Do you have anything in this house that I need to know about? I'm here because of AYZ.
Yeah.
Can I look in your house? If they say sure and I have consent, or I see something in plain view, then I'm lawfully there, and then this is where I go. Okay?
Exactly.
So you literally are playing a law game every second that you're on duty. Am I lawfully here? Did I get consent? Am I here? So you always hear what's called case law. Case law is based on basically officers' fuck-ups through the years. Okay? Primarily, I'll give you one. Arizona versus Miranda.
Miranda rights.
Back in the 60s, okay? They arrested a guy, Miranda, and they started
a guy named Miranda?
Interrogating him.
Yes.
They started interrogating him, but they didn't advise him of his rights, telling him, you do not have to answer any questions. You're under arrest. You're not free to leave. You don't have to talk to me. So that's where Miranda comes in. So you have what's called case law. So every time an officer does something, potentially it can be a case law that'll hit the books. So an officer is there all constantly questioning himself. Am I lawfully able to be here? Can I do this? Can I do that? Am I not going to be able to do this? Because everything's going to get thrown out if you're not lawfully there. And officers and lawyers, DAs call it the fruit of the poisonous tree. If you pluck a fruit of the poisonous tree, you're done. You take one little piece of that fruit, you're done. Your whole case is raveled. So you're constantly within seconds saying, am I good? Am I lawful? Am I here? Am I going to do this? So you're constantly playing judge and jury as you're trying to decide a case, or what am I doing in the split-second decision? So that's where you're constantly having to slow down. What do I have? Do I have this? Do I just take this? Do I just possess it? Do I not charge the guy? I mean, it's just a huge freaking game. That's all it is.
So as a civilian, we always have the right then that if an officer comes knocking at the door, we always have the right to deny entry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I had an officer who came to my house right now and knocked on my door and said, Allie, can I come in your house? I'd say, fuck you. Why are you going to come in my house?
Right.
Get a warrant.
It's not a guilty. It's not a guilty plea at all.
Why are you going to come in my house? If they're like, listen, we have, reasonable suspicion or probable cause to believe that A, B, and C is going on. I'd say, no, sir, you're not coming in my house. Go get a warrant.
Is not
nope.
legitimate.
It's not. It's not enough to come in somebody's house. Sorry, it's not.
And, all right, so we do have the one.
Now, it's enough to detain you if you're walking on the streets, but you have to realize that your house is a completely different totality than your person walking on the street.
The one right we can still have is to deny an officer to come into our house.
Absolutely. Like I told you, the only way he can get in your house is exigent circumstances, a warrant or consent.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, on the fruits of the poisonous tree. So, say you pull over a guy, and random guy on a broken taillight. I'm just spitballing off my head, but say you pull over a guy on a broken taillight, and you ask him, can we search your car?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy says yes.
Okay.
And you search his passenger seat, you search his driver's seat, you search his back seat, but his glove box is locked. If you force that glove box open...
I don't think you can do that, can you? You can't force a lock.
Yeah, but he gave you consent. That's a big difference.
If you force the glove box open and find cocaine after he given you consent to search his car, is that fruits of the
No.
poisonous tree?
He gave me consent. The dumbass told me I could.
Well, here's
But
the
it's
thing.
locked.
Here's the thing,
It
though.
doesn't matter.
Here's the thing.
He
though.
told me. I asked him. You ask him the whole entire way. It's a huge difference. So I think this is where you're going. When you arrest somebody, okay, you can do a search incident to arrest, but only if within his wingspan, only where he can reach. So I can't go into the trunk. I can't go into locked containers. I can't go underneath the back seat. I have to be able to articulate to say, listen, this is where the driver was sitting. This is what's underneath his seat. This is what was in the middle hatch, whatever it may be. Now, what officers do now is they call, we're going to tow the vehicle and we're going to do a vehicle inventory and impound.
Is that legal?
Of course it is.
And that's where they can bust the lock open. And
Of course they can. So
But what if you're on scene?
what do you mean if you're on scene? You're arrested. If I just arrested you, JJ, listen. Let's just say I arrested you hypothetically for DUI. Failed the roadsides, your DUI, you blow 120 on the PBT.
Roadsides are
I
bullshit.
arrest you. You're in the back seat, and now the car's mine. I'm going to tow the car, okay? And now I have to do what's called an inventory of the car because I don't want you to later say, "Oh, I had a Rolex in the back seat, or I had a Tony Hawk skateboard that was worth $800 in the trunk," or whatever it may be. Now the whole car is mine, and I'm going to inventory it, which is a bullshit word for I'm going to search the fuck out of your car.
pretty much.
Okay? So if you're a shitball, JJ, and you got weed, and you got a pipe, and you got zigzags, and you got baggies, and you got a scale, I'm going to find him, and I'm going to cite you for possession and drug paraphernalia and possibly
intent to sell.
Dispute.
and possibly
Yeah.
distribution if I wanted to. So, there again, I tell people, if you're gonna smoke weed, you're gonna do drugs, keep it at your fucking house. Because the police is not gonna be able to get into your house without what? A
Probable
warrant.
cause.
Execution.
No, a warrant, exigent circumstances, or
Exigent
consent. So if you're rolling dirty, you're going to get caught, JJ. That's all I'm saying. Don't be stupid. 90% of the people I arrested are stupid.
I guess we got a little
And
bit
I have to
of.
go back to this real quick.
We got a little bit less of time here, so.
Real quick. So if you're 21 and you're renting in a house, and your house has a lock on it, or your room has a lock on it, and the police come in and the owner of the a roommate of the house, sorry, not the owner, a roommate of the house says, yeah, you're more than welcome to come in. This is only because of what I've been told. You can only search common areas. Is
Correct.
that true?
Correct.
Yeah.
They can't break the lock to go in your room.
But if it's unlocked, they can't.
Probably not.
No, they have to have each room. Sorry, if am I right here? If they can have each roommate's permission.
Yeah, I think they're going into a place they don't want to go. They have to have, again, those circumstances. But I'm not going to go into somebody's room that has a locked door. Oh, this is clearly your roommate's door. This belongs to JJ. No, I'm not
Yeah.
going to go in there.
Just like, let's say
Yeah.
they came here to
No.
get me.
No.
Obviously, they're not going to
No.
go in
No.
Sean's room and
No.
Gigi's
No.
room and
No.
Kodo's
They
room.
they can only lawfully search within your wingspan.
Yeah.
So if they hypothetically arrested you for a warrant in your house and you were sitting on the couch, they're going to just check the area of the couch or where you're at. They're going
Right.
to not start going through the kitchen cupboards and stuff like that. No.
But what is this whole illegal eye?
What?
What?
Where they can legally see that there are drugs within viewpoint of where you're at. Or a weapon in where you're at.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So, you gave them permission to come in.
So plain view, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, plain view.
Okay. So if I came in and and he was sitting on the couch, and we had a warrant for him, and I'm like, hey, that's Joe Blow. We got a warrant for Joe Blow. There he is. Boom, you're arrested. While I'm lawfully there in the residence, and I can see clearly
I got blades and everything else.
a half a kilo of cocaine and a scale.
I'm smoking a joint.
Now it's plain view. I'm lawfully there. And lawfully what a good officer should do is stop. Have everybody exit the house. Back out of the house. Write a search warrant. Get the affidavit done. Have the judge sign it.
So technically,
Then go in the house. And then you're going to seize everything.
So technically,
okay?
until the search warrant's in there, you can't do shit.
Well, I can. I'm just needing to wait to cross my T's and dot my I's and make sure. Okay.
So I get rid of all that stuff.
So I can take what I confiscate in plain view, but I want to get the other kilos you got stashed in your basement and wherever else you have.
Well, let's say.
So that's what the warrant's
Well, let's
for.
say, freaking, I know I'm getting arrested. Let's say I kick over the coffee table, knock everything down to the floor, and all the powder and everything else dissolves into liquid or whatever.
Carpet.
Now, how are you going to get that as evidence now?
Oh, we can still do a presumptive positive test. I mean, there's...
But you ain't getting it as much as...
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is articulate, obviously we're there, we saw X, Y, and Z. As the struggle induced, he kicked over the table. We did get a presumptive positive that it tested positive for cocaine. This is where we're at. We're going to photograph, we're going to take pictures. I mean...
we can go in what ifs for fucking
Sure,
ever here.
of course.
Yeah, we could.
Of
But,
course.
do you have a presumptive positive for weed?
Oh, of course. For THC? Absolutely.
I mean, like in carpet.
Of course.
Dude, you can see weed in carpet. You can ground down coke in carpet better than you can weed.
Listen. You know what? At this point, at the stage of the game, weed's a dime a dozen. We got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, exactly.
Give a shit less about marijuana, THC. Who cares?
Honestly,
So,
that shouldn't even be a
actually,
bother anymore.
This
Really.
leads into a major question of mine. And no, it's personal. It's personal. If you have like 5 cops at your house, because this has happened to me. I've had
That's not a good thing, JJ. Let me tell you. 5 police at your house.
Not my house, a friend's house.
That's a bad day.
Bad
day.
That's my day.
I have had 5 cops at my friend's house when I was there, and they all went in going, I think he's a dealer of methamphetamine. Everybody in the house denied them access. Is that legal?
So there again, let's go back to this. The only way that you can get into somebody's residence is exigent circumstances.
Even if you know he's a dealer.
Consent.
Even if you've seen him on the street dealing.
How do you know that? How does the police know that?
Even if you've seen him on the street dealing a 10 bag, a 20 bag, a 8 ball.
That's reasonable suspicion. I
Locked
reasonably
behind
believe that he's
doors.
probably a drug dealer, but I can't go on probablys or maybes
Locked behind
unless I
doors.
have a warrant. Okay, and even probable cause is not going to get me in somebody's house. I can't be like, oh, I think they're doing this in the house. I can't go in that house.
I think it's because we've been trained too much to believe.
Now, if you give consent, and listen, police officers have the gift of gab. They can bullshit their way out of anything and talk their way into anything, okay? Now, once they lawfully get in that house and they see something in plain view, JJ, you're done. So you have to have something in plain view. See what I'm saying? So all I'm telling you is if you are around a bunch of dumbasses that are doing drugs and meth, you're probably not thinking clearly, and the police come to your door, they can probably get in, I'm imagining, pretty easy.
And I've obviously got a scenario on that one for that matter. I got arrested on warrants due to the fact that freaking homeboy answered the door, and they were looking for him, not me. they were looking for him and everything else, and just so happened that he called my name out, actually nickname for that matter. Didn't even call my actual name, just called a nickname. And freaking, I was under a blanket and everything else, just trying to get sleep, where they could have just took him and been gone. He called my name out, and due to the fact that I stood up and went, dude, that sucks. What do you want me to do about it? They go, oh, you're this guy, huh? Is your actual name do? And yeah, they arrested me due to the fact that I stood up and freaking made my presence known. Whether right. I mean, they were there for him and him alone. They had no right to search the property or nothing else like that because they had the person they were there for. They had, what do you call it? Visible sight or whatever. They had whatever in view, and there was no illegal property in view and everything like that. They could have just took him, been gone, and gone. If he'd have just shut his mouth,
right,
it had just been him. Mm-hmm. He'd have been taken away. Right. Instead, of course,
sure. I mean, the hindsight's 2020. And I mean, over the thousands and thousands of people I arrested for DUI. Obviously, at this point, if I was ever stopped by the police, I would never, ever admit to consuming alcohol.
Would you ever pull your badge?
I would never do roadside maneuvers. I would never give them any sort of evidence to, pertain to my guilt ever.
Would you ever pull your badge to get out of trouble?
No comment.
So yes.
Actually, I've heard a story about it. There was a cop that ran a last question. There was a cop that sped on a undone highway. It was 65. He was doing 75. And he hit a crossing that wasn't his stop sign, but somebody else's. And that somebody else came out and he hit them. He got charges for it. Is
about damn time.
Is that...
Well, of course, JJ.
How can you prove that he was speeding, though?
I don't know the totality of it. I mean, obviously, at this point, there's a lot of things that we can test as, your brake marks and the yaw marks and that sort of stuff. And they can estimate with the technology today of how fast a person was going.
Dude, I've seen a cop freaking swerving.
Whether you're an officer or not, okay, you have to make the right decision and the right judgment. I mean, you're not going to pursue after somebody or do something unlawfully. You have to look at the whole circumstances of what you're going to do. Now, there's a lot of times that people do not make the right decisions. Officers don't. People don't. Okay?
I think nowadays, well, even a bit ago as well, some, I'm not saying all, some officers do hide behind their badge and figure that they are better than whomever, so they can just do whatever the hell they want. And it disgraces the whole, police force. Mm-hmm. It disgraces, it makes people not want to call on cops for help.
Sure.
In fact, include officers that run their siren just to get out of a red light.
Seen it. Yeah, it has been done.
But, you don't know where they're going to. They could be going to back up another officer. They could be going to do a no-knock warrant. They could be going to whatever it may be, and they got to get through that intersection to go.
It is possible. It is possible.
So what you guys see, you have no idea what's really happening, what they're going to. You have to realize when an officer is going to a burglary in progress call, they're not going with their lights and sirens. So if they're going to go through an intersection and just put on their code 3s really quick to go through without their siren, boom, boom, really quick, They're going to get somewhere.
But
Does
when you
this
see
also include fire department and emergency response?
Of course. Of course.
And I mean, we can continue this debate actually for
Actually,
quite a long
we
time.
want you back on for another
we
episode.
We can continue the debate for quite a long time because there has been a lot of known, like sought after, seeing the cops, get after when they're not supposed to, and we can point out where they do wrong, and we can point out where we do wrong. It really actually doesn't really matter at this point. Actually, at this point, we are way over time. And,
out of time.
And we're going to go ahead and thank our guest here, Allie, for coming on with us.
And we hope you come back.
We appreciate all of your insights and everything you've given us.
Of course. I had a great time, you guys. Thanks for having me.
We hopefully expect you back at some point. And
it doesn't matter when, we just want you back.
Right on.
This has been great. For Dual Thought, I am TR.
And I am JJ.
Dueling out the thoughts
that come to our heads. And good night, folks.